There's a lot of arseholes in the world. They know that they can't get away with being arseholes, so they'll twist everything around to make people look the other way, including standing up to fight for someone as a way to get away with being an arsehole. So here's a story on the time I beat up a special needs student back in high school. This story actually needs a lot of setup to the incident. I always had trouble in school, always the victim of bullying, always discouraged by students and teachers. Like, one time I was drawing all original 151 Pokemon on a single sheet of paper and was so proud of it, only for the class, and even the teacher, to tell me how pointless that was and to stop wasting the class's time. This got worse when I started high school. I went to an all-boys school, the kind of school where you had to be tough to survive. Well, not really tough, just not weak. But that means there's always got to be someone at the bottom. I had my worst time in school here. Mistreated, bullied, my good nature taken advantage of. Once the teacher announced a test, out of my pencil case I pulled out a tin case of 10 high quality pencils. My mum bought it for me to encourage my drawing, although I quit that hobby to waste my time playing fucking Halo. A bunch of kids in class started to claim that they didn't bring a pen or pencil and begged me for one of my pencils. After the test finished, I asked the kids for my pencils back and they acted like I never lent them one. My tin case now only had 4 pencils. My locker was regularly busted open. My art apron was always stolen. Once I caught someone else wearing it and told the teacher, even pointing out each individual stain and how I got them. But when the teacher tried to look at the tag that had my initials on it, I only found the torn remains. So he got to keep my apron while I was told off for causing trouble. I got in trouble with teachers for what others did. Like the time some kids kept throwing rocks at me and then the teacher went and gave me detention for it. Or they'd throw me under the bus for doing the same thing. Like the classic pretending you're another student gag with a substitute teacher. Other kids did this for a class laugh, but when I did it I was kicked out of the class for disruption. And a bunch of other stuff, including the time someone pulled a Stanley knife on me. I mean, it was just a Stanley knife, but still. Despite being the weakest, there actually was a level below that. Being gay. So kids gained a regular trait in proving how much they weren't gay. Everybody did a lot of work in proving how not gay they were and how much they hated gay kids. Like convincing the bus driver at the end of the day to take the main street so that we could pass by all the 13-year-old girls waiting for their bus, so that they could all go, "Whoa, look at the tits on that one," despite the girls not having any. It was only to prove how not gay they were in front of the lads, because we were all heading to the same bus exchange area where they can see those same girls. While at school, everybody did their best to avoid doing anything that could be seen as gay. Whether it be accidentally having a lisp or waving too flimsy, someone could be standing around and someone behind him would bend over to pick something up, accidentally bumping their asses. Then it becomes a race to see how not gay you were, berating and screaming at the other guy for being gay. First or loudest weren't gay and the other kid got made fun of, unless it came to blows. In fact, I think in that school that most fights were actually from kids trying to prove how not gay they were. Whether you liked it or not, everybody got into the habit of shoving each other away to avoid being called gay. Even I did it. Although that was more about trying to keep away another excuse to get bullied. Eventually I was taken in to see the principal to discuss my time at the school and made the decision to switch schools. Kind of felt good when I made that decision. But before I left, on my second last day, I was sitting on the bus waiting to go home when someone started talking shit to me. I ignored it, with the only thoughts in my head being to wait one more day, when he suddenly punched me in the back of the head. I was so mad by this point, all the years of bullying just bottled up. I then heard someone behind him say, "Why did you do that?" He responded with, "Because I felt like it." Suddenly my body bolted up, I turned around and shouted, "Well, I feel like doing this," and punched him right in the nose, making it bleed. And all the guys on the bus that usually tormented me, they went. Whenever I see conversation about how to deal with bullying, I just laugh at how they have no idea what they're doing. So I started attending a new school and my experience improved. I started having friends, started socializing, sharing hobbies, made some lovelies. I guess because I was a new student that there was no history for anybody to pull from. I mean, yeah, there was still general bullying. There were still guys proving how not gay they were, but it wasn't as common as the previous school. I guess because it was an all-boys school that it exasperated the problem. Which leads me to the main story of this video. One day I'm waiting outside class, unbeknownst to me that I'm about to be a target. It could have happened to anyone, I was just in the wrong place at the wrong time. Down the corridor, some little weasel and his two lugs were looking for trouble. They were such a cliche. A little guy with glasses with two dopey looking lackeys. I think they were actually held back a grade based on something later. They managed to get their hands on one of the school's retarded students.
I don't think you're allowed to say that word, you know?
I'm not disparaging the differently abled. I'm stating a fact that this student was mentally retarded.
Yeah, but I don't think it's about logic. I think the word has just become a symbolic issue for powerful groups that feel like they're doing the right thing.
Well, that's retarded. They had a plan to get him to hug a guy, putting that guy in a no-win situation. Either push the kid away and be treated like a monster, or let the kid hug him and be treated like a gay. I was kinda zoned out at the time, so I didn't really notice the kid walking up to me and trying to hug me. I kinda just held him back. The bullies kept encouraging him to keep going until he basically glomped me. Now, keep in mind that I just came from a high school in which you had to do everything in your power to avoid being gay, so I instinctively shoved him away. He stumbles back, arms flailing, until he loses his balance and falls completely over, causing everybody in the corridor to freeze in their spots to watch the scene, with the bullies sneering over what they had just caused. Ah shit, I fell for that one. Now I gotta deal with this fucking drama. Although I did learn from the previous high school that it's better to just keep your head down. So that's what I tried. Just stayed away from people, sat away where nobody goes, went to class late, sat closest to the door, using friends as a barrier. Of course kids came running up to me to scream at me. I just kept my responses short. At first, the fallout didn't seem so bad. Then something weird happened the next day. I think lunch had just ended and I went back to my locker. My locker was on the bottom left. I transferred schools, so I got the last pick. As I'm opening it, I hear someone say something. I didn't notice or react to it at the time, but it's clear in my memory. Someone behind me says, "That's him." I'm suddenly yanked up from my locker. I'm spun around, slammed against the lockers with someone holding me by the collar. I look at the guy holding me. He was wearing a cap. And I think to myself, who the hell is this? I've never seen him in my life. I know it sounds weird to say, but you end up kind of knowing everybody in high school. No, you don't learn everybody's name, but everybody ends up becoming a familiar face. But I had never seen this guy in my life. Apparently everybody else knew him. I didn't, of course, I was the new kid. But still, never seen him before. I pieced it together later that this guy ended up becoming one of those students. He may have been coming to school in the early years, but now he skips most of his classes, only turning up just enough to give a sob story on why he had to skip so many school days. Or rather, the teachers just pushed him up to the next grade because they knew what his future was, and it would have been better for them to just let him coast through school until he's out of their hair. So he's holding my collar, everybody around is just staring. He has this sly smirk on his face. He starts asking me why I'm beating up his good friend, the special needs kid. Oh, I see what this is. Now, there might be an actual term for this, but I call what he's doing a lawyer punch. Basically, it's someone who's looking for a fight, but knows that they can get in trouble for instigating one. So they'll try to intimidate or goad someone into attacking first. You know, like how a guy will corner someone at a bar, puffing out their chest and going, "What you gonna do, huh?" Because then they can defend themselves if attacked, with one of two outcomes happening. They'll either beat up the guy and act all macho for finishing a fight someone else started, or they get beaten up and then they can sue them, which doesn't work. See, once I was talking about this to a friend who worked as a bouncer. During a period I did a weekly event close by, and after I finished I would visit him at work by his door to shoot the shit for a bit. Until a tragedy later, rest in peace. I was talking to him about this concept, and because he was a bouncer, he was regularly dealing with police and knowing the laws. He explained how lawyer punches don't work because intimidation can still be seen as a viable threat, and the guy throwing the first punch is the one who is defending himself. Which is why I say a lawyer punch can only be attempted once. Because if they do end up in court, they'll find out that it's not a viable form of self-defense. Lawyers and judges are smart, way smarter than you. They know exactly what you're trying to pull. They sent people smarter than you to prison for doing less. Regardless, it's still in your best interest to try and avoid causing a scene. Yeah, we both know he's in the wrong, but he's looking for an excuse to throw a punch. Defending the special needs kid? No, he's not going to get in trouble for that. Oh well, you see, he thought he was protecting the special needs kid, so his heart was in the right place. We can't punish him for that, which is also a lot of bullshit. If this guy was going to punch me no matter what, then it didn't matter what I said, he was going to do it. But if he's looking for an excuse, I know not to give him one. So while he's shaking me around and asking the same questions, I'm just giving him short answers to what actually happened. He just fell over. He starts getting actually angry because I'm not falling for his shit, still trying to rile me up. So I turn around on him and say, "I'm late for class, can you let me go now?" Then he did. Then he left. By left, I mean he walked out the building and off school grounds. The next day, I'm pulled into the principal's office. The same guy was waiting for me because we had to talk about this incident. I told my story and he did his basic sub-story about wanting to be my friend or something. I'm not buying it because this happened in the previous school. The principal was concerned about how scared I was, saying she would have been terrified if the same thing happened to her. I couldn't relate. I had no idea who this guy was. I left the office and he left. By left, I mean he walked out the building and off school grounds. And I never saw that kid again. I think he actually did drop out of high school. I still kept my head low because I just needed to wait until next week. That's something I've learned that I carry out onto social media. I kinda made it a rule, if there's some drama on the internet, ignore it. There's a good chance everybody in the world will forget it by next week. If they're still talking about it in week 2, look up what it's about to get an idea on what everybody is talking about, then ignore it. If they're still talking about it during week 3, start looking into it and coming up with your own opinions on the matter, then ignore it. You've got better shit to deal with. But those bullies who started the whole mess weren't done with me. They managed to grab the special needs kid and tried to encourage him to get his revenge against me, negging him to beat me up, trying to replicate the same kind of situation. You know, either I beat up the special needs kid or everybody makes fun of me for being beaten up by the special needs kid. He's trying to get in my face, but I could tell by his reaction that he wasn't exactly sure he knew what he was doing. He knows fighting is wrong, but those guys are telling him to fight me. I just felt so sorry for him. I just spoke in a neutral way and he eventually left. Thankfully, that week ended and everybody in school completely forgot about it. Although there was a scene I did see later. One time during lunch, I was walking outside and I spot the same bullies with the special needs kid. These guys had a Coke bottle and had just finished most of it, leaving only a small amount. Then they went to a full trash bin and shoved it down the bottom, then told the special needs kid. See, this kid really loved Coke and was known for asking students for some of their Coke if he saw them drinking some. The bully sat there and watched with a chuckle as the special needs kid went digging through the trash bin, trying to find that almost empty Coke bottle. There's another good life lesson here. There are assholes who like to hide behind good deeds. You see it all the time now on social media, especially around cancel culture. I never bought that ideology. I could always tell there were assholes in there just using it to get away with being assholes. As for this story, there was only one last bit for the ending. I was walking down the street one day when a car suddenly pulled up. Of course, it's those same guys again. Which also confirmed to me that at least the driver had been kept back a year. You might be confused, but in Australia, you have to be 18 in order to have a license and a car. Since they were in my grade, I thought they were my age, but they were driving, hence the idea of them being kept back a grade. In fact, I also noticed that I haven't seen them much around lately, so I surmised that they all also dropped out of high school. They immediately start talking shit to me and bring up the time I beat up the special needs kid. I just looked at them and said, dude, that was 2 years ago. Realizing that there was no fight to be had, they floored it and left. And that was it. The only thing to come from me was learning about how people can get away with being assholes. There pretty much was no more bullying for me after that, and I got to continue coasting through life. Well, except for that one time the landlord bullied me, stole my money and broke the law, but that's a different story.